Looks like my video got content ID'd, so I guess we'll take a different approach then. You see, the issue of intellectual property rights can affect all of us, from creators to consumers. Likely, all of us have experienced some form of difficulty, be it a petty annoyance or a more serious issue because of copyright. But before I go blathering on about it, considering this is an ethics course, it would be best to understand the ethical justifications for property rights first. One of the usual suspects that comes up when considering property rights is John Locke. Although his definition was originally intended for tangible goods and land ownership, it still has some merits regarding intellectual property. Locke states, "Whatsoever then he removes out of the state that nature hath provided, and left it in, he hath mixed his labor with, and joined to it something that is his own, thereby makes it his property." Which is basically an old-timey way of saying just desserts deserve just rewards. However, many argue that this definition is not enough. Peter Dreyhaus, for example, contends that if labor is to form the basis of a natural property right, there must be some way in which to demarcate precisely the object of the property right. Essentially, there's no way to definitively say how much effort is enough effort to warrant someone's claim to property. In contrast to this, utilitarian justifications take more of a forward-looking approach. You know, ensuring the well-being and future prosperity for society and all that. Despite this, even proponents of the theory acknowledge the issues with current intellectual property laws. David Resnick, being one of them, states that current intellectual property laws do not appear to serve as effective vehicles for giving authors and inventors just rewards for their contributions. So, a more justified set of laws ought to consider both labor and forward-looking ideals. As things are now in the field of digital commodities, copyright proves to be somewhat of a perplexing issue. Unlike tangible goods, the legal ownership of digital products resides with their creator even after their sale. As a consumer, you're simply paying to use their software. You do not have true right of ownership. This means that corporations can legally reserve the right to take that product away from you for any matter of arbitrary reasons. This is not so much an unlikely occurrence. Case in point, in 2006, Microsoft's Zune MP3 player, does anyone remember Zune? Abandoned its Plays for Sure music, causing previously purchased Plays for Sure music to be unplayable on the Zune. That's just one example of the mismanagement of digital rights management technology. This lack of consumer ownership can also result in things such as predatory cancellation fees. In fact, Adobe, the company who produced the software I'm currently using to edit this video, exemplifies this practice. Their Creative Cloud is set up through monthly purchases. However, their customers incur a cancellation fee of 50% of the annual cost if they end their subscription after 2 weeks. Because what really happens is the customer signs up for a year-long contract. To make things worse, this cancellation fee isn't even mentioned on their payment plan webpage. It only appears in tiny text on the purchase page after you've filled out your billing information. The third example of DRM I have left for last, since it goes beyond monetary problems, as it hurts my soul. The issues of persistent online authentication often leads to the permanent death of software. Such programs require an essential server, which, as its name implies, contains data required to run the program. As such, when a product inevitably runs its course and it's no longer monetarily viable for a company to maintain a server for it, the software is usually left to die. In the case of video games and other entertainment media, works of art can be lost to history. But it doesn't have to be this way. Corporations simply lack any incentivization to pursue end-of-life policies, so they allow their product to vanish. Tech experts argue against the misuse of DRM technology. For instance, Bruce Schneier, a computer security professional, argues, what the entertainment industry is trying to do is to use technology to contradict natural law. They want a practical way to make copying hard enough to save their existing business, but they are doomed to fail. Even corporate CEOs such as Steve Jobs and Gabe Newell have spoken out against DRM technology, pointing towards the erroneous assumptions surrounding digital piracy. Certain measures such as the Creative Commons are a step in the right direction, but ultimately more must be done. Corporations ought to be held legally accountable for the negligent destruction and restriction of their creations. Moreover, our legislature should more accurately reflect the ethical values of our society, both prosperity and desert, as opposed to shielding the economic interests of corporations.